We're now going to look at what's called RAG, or Retrieval Augmented Generation. When a model is trained, it's trained up to a certain knowledge and on a certain corpus, but it might not relate to our domain knowledge or our website. And we saw in our very first API request in 01.1 how we had the system prompt and we would ask a question, but if we were to ask something very specific about our website or our domain knowledge, we wouldn't get an answer because it's not in the model. And that's where RAG comes in, Retrieval Augmented Generation. What we can do is when we have our system prompt, we can also add in, and in this case statically, some extra information, which then the model will have when we send the request, that it can answer questions not just on what it knows in its model, but also more specifically what's sent up in the prompt. And we attach it to the system prompt. So we have the system prompt, the original one, plus the RAG. And I did a talk at the Brighton Web Development Meetup in October. And what I did is I basically took some information from the website, put in some spurious, incorrect information, which was that it's been running since 1865, so that we could actually check that when we get this answer back, it's not coming from the model itself, but from our added information. And that's what really RAG is. It's supplementing our request with our own domain knowledge that we want to ask questions on, in the case where we haven't fine-tuned our models with our own custom information. So let's have a look at that. So we're in the RAG here. I'm going to paste my key. And I'm going to ask, when was the first meetup held? It's going to look, first meetup was on October the 3rd, 1865. Now that comes straight from our event here. So what we're actually sort of doing is, this is how we can supplement our chatbots with more increased information. And as we see later on as we go down in our plugins, this will be done dynamically. But this could be a very simple way to do an FAQ, for example, that you could have a lot of information in. Remember, you can put in, as we've seen before in the demo from the Google, you can have an awful lot of information. You can have pages upon pages that you just send up. And it can be a far more efficient way than fine-tuning your model. So when we come back to our RAG, we can see that here. And if we sort of ask, when was the first meeting held up? Who organized it? Who organized the first meeting? We put that through. First meeting was organized by Louise in the year 1865. That's our information here. The first meeting being organized by Louise. If we change that to Peter and save and come back, who organized the first meeting? Put in our API key. Who organized the first meeting? By Peter. Now, if you notice, it's quite funny language. And the reason I did that is another feature that we can do is in the prompt, I said reply in a poetic way. So this is our background system prompt. So I said reply in a poetic way. So we can see our answer is very poetic. If I take out that line and we refresh and we do it again, when was the first meeting held? Sorry, let me get my key, copied and pasted the wrong thing. That's very factual. So what we're seeing now is not only can we add in extra information upon which we want to ask questions on, but we can also change the prompt in many different ways. We could get it to answer in capital letters in a different language. So what we've seen in these first two here is actually how in our request, the system prompt kind of is the code for the agent. It's in natural language. It's on the client side and gets sent up to an endpoint, a bit like a mirror, and bounces back. It's always the one endpoint. We never have different endpoints depending on what we want to do for our chat completions. It's always this one unique endpoint in natural language and sent from the client side. So that's RAG. And what we'll see later on when we go into our plugins, We're going to be developing dynamic RAG and chatbots that, given a question, will query our database based on the query and get the right kind of information from our posts put into the API request that can then be used by the agent to answer the questions. That is basically how we do RAG.